Yo, tuned in, it's that time again. Welcome to the show under the bright zen. Just another messenger bringing the news with the beat in your soul. Let's light up these views. We're diving deep, no time for snooze. Grab your headphones, let me share the clues. In a world so loud, where voices collide, we find the rhythm, let the truth be our guide. Hit that play button, feel the vibe. Every second counts, let's take that ride. From stories untold to laughs we share. Just another messenger, we're always there. Hi. It's a jam, just sit back and unwind. With our flow and our style, it's one of a kind. Like the mix, just like a DJ spins. We serve you the truth where the journey begins. It's a jam, we're all in this together. Sound waves linking us, no matter the weather. Just another messenger, we keeping it tight. With every single drop, we rise and ignite. Yeah.
Good day. I'm your host, Tamara L., and welcome to another installation of Just Another Messenger, where we raise the situational urgency and consciousness regarding today's current events. We'll dive deep into the historical past by examining the philosophies, legal system, and political decisions that continues to influence our daily lives. So please join the conversation during the episode. Your comment matters. Hit the subscribe, share, and like button to be a part of more thought-provoking conversation in the future. You wouldn't want to miss it. And don't forget to visit our website at www.justanothermessenger.com that connects you to all our social feeds, online merch store, and our link to support the work via Cash App at $JustAnotherMessenger. So let's get started. All right. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Oh my God. This is going to be a show tonight. Welcome back. Welcome back to season 2, episode 2 of Just Another Messenger. I'm your host, Tamara L. And this is part 2, Misclassified, Decoded, the paper genocide that erased a nation. Now, in the beginning, there was no church, only the gatherings. Souls pressed together, not in worship, but in witness. The ancient act was called swayati, the swelling of the people, the binding of the breath into one living force. Now, but what happens when that binding is stolen? When the gathering becomes a congregation, and the congregation becomes a corporation, and the spirit of the people becomes property of the state. Yes, they called it holy, but it was jurisdiction. They called it salvation, but it was registration. They called it faith, but it was a transfer of sovereignty. Now the church became the vessel, the state became the shepherd, and the people became the body they fed from. So tonight we're going to decode the binding that no one ever thought about. And this is the misclassified decoded, where the veil is pulled back on Hallows Eve and the hidden hands behind the pulpits, the policies, and the papers of power are finally exposed. I'm Tamara L., and we're going to break the oldest spell ever written, the one that made you believe your freedom was a sin. All right, we got some housekeeping rules, everyone, going on this evening. Let's get these housekeeping rules today. Continue to hit the subscribe, share, and like button over our YouTube at Just Another Messenger. Please follow us on X at jam_404 podcast. And if you or someone you know would like to be a part of the show, we're going to start taking guests. Go ahead and send us a very friendly email to justanothermessengerpodcast gmail.com, and continue to keep this alternative digital media alive via our Cash App contribution at $just another messenger. I'm going to put a new banner up there because it's saying at just another messenger, but it's $just another messenger. So we're going to go ahead and get this started today. We're going to unpack the misclassified decoded here. We're going to get that information out. So I'm going to get that off and let's go ahead and get this started with our disclaimer. Just Another Messenger is a platform dedicated to the public education, historical awareness, cultural critique, and the transformative discussions under the protective section of 107 of the U.S. Copyright Act of 1976, commonly referred to as fair use. Just Another Messenger does not provide statutory counseling for any United States color law jurisdictional proceedings. However, we provide a breadth of information that'll help you along the way. Now, the content presented by Just Another Messenger may include excerpts of copyrighted material, just as images, audio, video, and written works for the purpose of criticism, commentary, news reporting, education, scholarship, and research. All such usage is non-commercial in nature and intended to stimulate public discourse, raise consciousness, and support transformative learning. We do not claim ownership over any third-party copyrighted material used. All rights and credit belong to the original creditor. So if you are the copyright holder of any material featured and have concerns regarding its use, please contact us directly via email for prompt resolution. Now, we like to thank our first responders for coming in today. Malik Day, yes, thank you very much. Yeah, this is our show. We're building it and continue to thank you for your support and continue to share the information so we can get into the algorithm more. I see the numbers are going up with our subscribers as well as our conversion ratio are looking really good from last week's misclassified season 1, episode 1. We had a really great conversion ratio on that. Very excited about that. All right, my Facebook people, if you're over on our Facebook page, on my Tamara L Facebook page, please get over to the YouTube page so we can get those algorithms pushed out there. Please get over to the YouTube page if you're on my personal Tamara L Facebook page. All right, so let's go ahead and get this party started this evening. All right, happy Halloween, everyone. Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween. Now, this is a Celtic. The Celtic used to celebrate this. This is an indigenous holiday. It is, and we're going to get into the understanding of that. And when they say, "Oh, Tamara, this is a pagan holiday," yes, it is, because the word pagan and etymology being first. So first in time, first in law, first in rituals, first in customs. So yes, even the Celtics usurped the practice of Hallows Eve, and they called it sowing, which is it's called sowing, and it's the markings of the end of the harvest. Let's think it from an agricultural perspective. All the fruits and vegetables of the earth is not springing forth during the time of the earth is going into dormant. It's going into its rest. We're going to be falling into winter. Right now, we're into fall seasons. We're about to now fall in a couple of more days on November the 21st. We're about to fall into winter. So it's going to, there will not, this is the end of the harvest cycle, and it's the collective gathering of the year's life force. So this is a time to celebrate, gather in. I know there's a lot of tension going on out in the world regarding the corporate jurisdictions not upholding the responsibility that's mandated in those treaties of being able to, they're here to be as a corporation to service the people, and they're not doing just that, but we're going to be all right. So we're going to continue to get thanks on this Hallows Eve, and this is the collective gathering of the year's life force, and it's the enclosure of the tribe for the winter. So they say this is cuffing season. So cuff up with your boo. I got my boo. Get your boo. Cuff up with your boo, and this is time to, you know, just really manifest and bring things together. And also, it's the thinning of the veil between the living and the ancestral realms. So, spiritually, this is a moment of swelling, a pressing together of both the living and the dead. And I like to call it the transition because energy never dies, it just take on another state of being. So this is a pressing together of both the living and the transitioning and a visible and the invisible world. So happy Halloween to everyone out there. All right, now let's look at this divine root here. It's called swayati, and it is a Sanskrit root, and it means, the meanings mean to press together, swell, or cause to increase. Now, when I bring this together, you're gonna be like, "Oh, wow, that was some wicked work right there." It's called swayati, and it's a Sanskrit word that means to embrace, to enclose, to bind into a collection. Now, I want you to pay close attention to that word, to bind into a collective. That's going to be what we're going to focus on this evening, that definition right there, to bind, to generate or hold communal force. That's going to be very important. Hold this understanding of the meaning of the root of swayati. And this is going to also deal with the sovereignty. It's going to deal with the church. We're going to bring this thing together full circle. Let's get into it. All right. It refers to an act of gathering or containing energy. Especially in a social, ritual, or spiritual sense. It- so, which means the primitive root, the first root behind it suggests fusion, swelling, or consolidation, not just in the body, but in the will and belief. Let thy will be done. This is a day of this is a great day where the veil is thin. So this is a great manifesting day to bind together your manifested desires and bring that force together so it can just vibrate out into the universal realm. All right, so that is Swayati. This is an old ancestral practice, but let me show you how they have taken this ancestral practice and they have used it against us for evil. And we're going to break these chains this evening. Let's get it. All right, let's look at the connection between Swayati versus Halloween. Now let's look at the core aspect of the action of Swayati, meaning binding, enclosing, swelling, where Halloween means gathering of spirits and the people. Now the purpose of Swayati is the united forces into one field, where Halloween is united living and transition for exchange. The energy of Swayati is the convergence, communion, power transfer. Halloween is the thinning veil and the collective offering. Have you gave your offerings to your ancestors? I know I have. Have you gave your offering? Now the aspect of risk, look at this. Swayati, look at the risk. Loss of sovereignty if bound to the wrong body. We're going to look at these bodies we're talking about. What body are they talking about, Tamara? Let's get into these body. Halloween, possession, it could be trickster energy, loss of boundary. You have to be, this could be the risk on both sides. In your Swayati as well as Halloween. You have to know how the energy must operate on both sides, how the fusion must be fused together. Let's look at the reward. On the Swayati, the reward is amplified creation and protection. In Halloween, renewal, ancestral blessing, and collective power. Let's dive deep into this a little bit more. How does this connect to the church? Let's look at the Greek word of that. The Greek word, karakon, belonging to the Lord. Now, last week, we talked about the Anishinaabe Confederacy Constitution. We talked about the titles of nobility. One of the titles that we talked about is Lord. Now, that word Lord has been it has been hypothecated, confiscated, and used in different ways. However, the ancestral meaning of Lord means the keeper of the bread, which means that the Rowena, which is the noble mother bloodline, the matriarch, bestowed the blessing and the keepings of the customs, the rituals, the norms, the folklore, the commerce. It was bestowed to the male heir of that bloodline. And they were the keeper of the bread. They were the voice for that lineage. That was the Lord of the house. All right. Old English, Sarisi, Germanic, Karika. Now, this means collective body bound by ritual exposure. Now, in modern day church, the collective body by ritual exposure is the first or either the fourth Monday in the Christian faith. They have what you call communion ritual, which is the breaking of the body and the drinking of the blood. That is a ritual exposure of the collective body. Now we're going to show the swayati of the ancestral collective body bound by ritual exposure. Now, the church is about the act of binding, swelling, enclosing, and gathering souls under a unified spiritual contract. We talked about the body. We're going to continue to go into the body. Now, let's look at this, the church adoption and inversion. Now, the Roman church absorbed sowing, which is Halloween, into Hallows Eve, the night before All Saints Day. So tomorrow is All Saints Day. November the 1st is All Saints Day. Now this was deliberately Swayati's control. This is a way to harness the fusion, the swelling, the binding of the natural people's ancestral energy into a false body politic. The church enclosed the ancient ancestral ritual into its own calendar. So one would say, "Oh, I don't celebrate Halloween." You don't celebrate the collective force of the binding of with your people. You don't give honor to that. The end of the harvest. You don't give thanks for the end of the harvest because that's what this day is about. It's about the coming together and giving thanks for the end of the harvest season. Okay. What about, okay, oh, I don't celebrate Thanksgiving. So you don't give thanks for the last harvest that you'll be able to produce and eat. That's the last Thanksgiving harvest. And there's other harvests, such as the little corn harvest, the big corn harvest, the raspberry. These are ancestral practices that dealt with giving thanks to nature, the greatest force in creation, that binds the earth together, that codes the seeds, that say, this is an apple, this is an orange, this is a banana, this is this. It codes it. The seed doesn't have to say, oh, what am I? And then pop up something else. What it is coded genetically and it knows how to produce itself and it becomes the life force for the next ecosystem for sustainability of life. So you mean to tell me that you don't give thanks for that? Mm, okay. I don't say, certain holidays I don't celebrate. These are not holidays, they're holy days because it's a collective, it comes from a collective force. That's what it represents. And it bound the collective energy of the old pagan festival into its own jurisdiction. So that's what the church adoption and inversion did. It bound the collective energy of the old pagan festival, the old first festival, into its own jurisdiction. So the congregation's attention and offerings are shifted from their ancestors into a Saint Benedict, Saint Thomas, Saint this, Saint that, Saint Nicholas. Huh. So the church effectively programmed, they performed swayati upon the festival itself, pressing a wild spiritual gathering into the framework of ecclesiastical control. I'm going to say that again. So the church effectively performed swayati upon the festival itself, pressing a wild spiritual gathering into the framework of ecclesiastical control. So let's look at the esoteric parallels. Let's get into that. Number one, the containment of the collective life force. The church functions as a vessel that presses together people into a singular spiritual entity, the body. I'm talking about all the different doctrines of the denomination, not just Christianity, not just Islam, not just Mohammedanism, not just Buddhism, not just Confucianism, not just any of the temple, mosque, synagogues, all of them. It's a containment of collective life forces where their function has been a vessel that presses together the people into a singular spiritual entity called the body politic. Number two, the esoteric consolidation. If a congregation is charged by ritual, songs, oath, confessions, the energy is pulled and directed. So when people say, "Oh, I don't do, that voodoo like you do," you're a lie. In the churches, they pull that energy by a ritual, by a song, by oath, by a confession. It's pulled and directed. This was not accidental. It's ancient technology. These are your hermetic principles, your ebb and flow. This is you. This is who you are, energy and motion. Your energy has been misdirected away from you into another vessel. Number three, authority over the bound collective. You the sheep, they the shepherd, they the imam. Churches become the institutional structure that claims legal and spiritual rights over the gathered masses. The Pope say, "I'm the vicar of God." It creates what you call the sovereignty transfer. In church context, the individual surrenders their spiritual autonomy to a collective overseen by clergy or a doctrine. And sometimes you wonder why there's delays in your prayers, because you gave it to somebody else and you're more greater to do it yourself. The sovereignty transfer also deals with tithes, confessions, marital rights. Now, those marital rights, it has a spell in that thing that when you hear that song, dum dum da dum, And it has a clause in there, which is a ritual. And it's called the habendum and the tendum clause. And it means to have in the whole. To have in the whole what? Who's having what and who's holding what? Because you go get a natural rights license, rights ritual, natural ritual license from the state of. So you just transferred your love by permission and your estate to the state of. You just married that state. And they're the ones who gonna hold it. And if you decide to break that estate contract, they're gonna adjudicate your estate and tell you what to do. Because you said, I do, after the contract of the addendum and addendum clause mean to have and to hold. The state said, you told the state they can hold your estate and they can have it. They can have your children's children estate. That's what you told the state of. Birth and death rights. You told the state of, I'm going to go into this hospital, which is this institution, this military institution, and I'm going to agree to a birth certificate, and I'm going to agree that you're going to take the sole of my baby feet and put it onto this piece of paper and turn my baby into a corpse. My child going to be responsible for the corpse that was just created in the same names, but with an all cap. You just lost your sovereignty for your child. And then you saying, and I also agree to add a divine nine digit of a social security number to that corpse in which this living vessel believe is them. And then upon death, a death certificate, I agree to allow the transference of the securitization of that death certificate for the state to have that profit of that. So that's a transfer of your sovereignty, and we wonder why we run around here and don't have any wealth, because we gave up our swayati. And a church are governed, so you're pressed into their jurisdiction through their church rolls, through their tithes, through the confessions, through the marital rights, through the birth and death rights. Rights mean rituals. You're pressed into that. Now, let's look at these esoteric parallels, replacing the clan, tribe, and the lodge. Now, before the churches, the tribes, the council, and the mystery school, they used the Swayati principles together and align the group energy. We were formed as one body, one unity. The institutional church co-opt and colonize that technology. Yes. But there is redemption. There is restoration. And we're going to get to that. Now let's look at the hidden function of the church. And that's why the church owns cemeteries, even to the grave. Usurpation of your sovereignty. They own marriage rights. The pastor is the informant, and you threw a party and said everybody gonna be the witness to the state having my estate, in my children's estate, in my children's estate. Recall back your energy. Your charter-based land. So while there's arguments about food, let's have the argument about restoration. There can't be reparation without restoration. You can't be repaired. You can't have restoration of someone that has you still in usurpation to pay you, and you're still in the same jurisdiction. That's taking money out of the left pocket and put it in the right pocket. and still wearing the pants. That's not how it works. You cannot have reparation without being restored back to what's been taken. So if the land is not returned back to the Aborigine, Autochthonous, and indigenous people known as Black, Negro, Colored, African American racial construct, we can't have the conversation about reparation without restoration. The school system. We have to stop allowing someone else to educate our children. You can't expect someone that has you in prison to get you full knowledge and thought. School mean the skull of the mind. If you go look at the 1908 Rockefeller Board of Education, let's do this because we're running ahead of schedule. So we're going to pull this thing up. We're going to pull up the 1908 Board of Education. Board of Education philosophy. And I'm going to read that to you. I should have had this up, but it just came to my spirit just now. I'm going to pull this up. And this was, all right. Let me see. Let me see. We're going to get here. We're going to find this information and we're going to read this together because this is very important to understand this. Why it's very important to, it's always when you're looking for something, you can't find it. All right. All right. Here it is. Let me share the screen. Let me share the screen so you can see what I'm seeing. How about that? Let's share the screen. All right. Let's look at this philosophy. Let's look at that. I hope you can see that. This is philosophy of the General Education Board by Frederick T. Gates and the Rockefeller Foundation. And it say, let me try to get this up. Zoom in a little bit more. All right. Okay, there we go. Woo! In our dream, we have limitless resources, and the people yield themselves with perfect docility to our molding hand. The present educational conventions fade from their minds, and hampered by tradition, we work our own goodwill upon a grateful and responsive rural folks. We shall not try to make these people or any of their children into philosophers or men of learning or men of science. We have not to raise up from among them authors, editors, poets, or men of letters. We should not search for embryo great artists, painters, musicians, nor lawyers, doctors, preachers, politicians, statesmen, of whom we have an ample supply. The task we set before ourselves is very simple as well as very beautiful one. To train these people as we find them to be a perfectly ideal life just where they are. So we will organize our children, and you wonder why they're not in the classroom, into a little community and teach them to do in a perfect way the things that fathers and mothers are doing in an imperfect way in the homes, in the shops, and in the farm. Now, this is a general education board, the country school of tomorrow. And this was written in 1913 by John D. Rockefeller and Frederick T. Gates, the country school of tomorrow. So this was their philosophy. This was the hidden function of usurping the sovereignty of the people, even through the mind of school. The birth records, canon laws. Canon laws are the common laws. So it's not a building. The church is not a building. It's a binding infrastructure. Now, Swayati, like I said, it means to enclose the many into one swelling body. The church is the enclosure that claims the body. The modern church stands as a continuation of the ancient act of Swayati, but with hierarchical ownership replacing communal alignment. And you wonder why we're not in alignment, because we are out of our Swayati, the swelling body of a people. Now let's look at this. Let's look at how this goes into also the doctrine of discovery. We have what his name was, Rodrigo Borgia. They called him the White Moor of Spain. And in 1492, he became Pope Alexander Sixtus. Now, on May the 4th of 1493, this allowed them to issue the papal bull called the Intercatera, aka the Doctrine of Discovery. Let's look at how this plays into the church, plays into the Swayati, and how they moved in for the swelling of the forces of the people. Now, the framework of the 1493 Doctrine of Discovery, it was an apostolic command to King Ferdinand and Queen Isabel of Castile, Leon, Aragon, Sicily, and Granada in their recovery of Granada from the yoke of the Saracen. Who are the Saracens? Black, Negro, colored, African American. That's your Saracens. Number 2, overthrow the barbarous, aka Black nations, and bring to the Catholic faith of the Christian religion. So, which means, in essence, Christianity was not a religion of American land. Swayati. Christopher Colon, aka Columbus, he had already set up garrisons in the southern part, of which we call the Caribbeans. And he had started his brutal campaign of Christian conversions, even killing people that did not, they rather died before being converted. They rather died. They stole gold, spices, and many other priceless items off the land of the Caribbeans. Keep in mind that America is North, South, Central America, and the adjoining islands. So when they say they came to America, which America? You have to define that. Which America did Christopher Colon embark on? It was in South. It was in the Caribbean. The Caribs. I'm not going to get in that to see even have well documented evidence of that. And this appoints and deputize you which was the Borgia and Queen Isabella and Ferdinand. So it appointed them and their heirs and successors while they're still here. Lords. Hmm. So you're saying thank you, Lord. Which one? Which one? King Elizabeth, Queen Isabel, King Ferdinand? Which one? With full and free power, authority, and jurisdiction of every kind, all dominions. Hold on. I thought Genesis 1:28 in the version of King James, which is the Lord. So you have dominion and power. The apostolic command from Rodrigo Borges, Pope Sixtus, the vicar of God. He gave the authority and jurisdiction of every kind on dominion, cities, camps, places, villages, and all rights, and opportunists, all islands and mainlands, and 100 leagues towards west, south, Azores, and the Cape Verdes. What does this 100 leagues mean? That means from the shores and 100 leagues out. Once you go out 100 leagues from the shores, that's called international territory. So that's why in today's news, you see the boats blowing up. And they say, whoa, that's treasonous. They're 100 leagues from your jurisdiction. You don't have that right. You wasn't given that right. You don't have dominion to do anything someone in international waters. That's a violation. So that's what that's about. Let's look at these Bible verses that justifies the war against the Saracen. Let's look at Genesis. Let's look at Genesis. Genesis 1:28. God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish in the sand, in the sea, and the birds in the sky, and over every creature that moves on the ground. Every creature that moves on the ground. You were defined as a creature during your occupation, subjugation, colonization, hypothecation, and domination. You were defined as a creature. Just their justification to rule over you. Revelations 3:13-7. Let's look at the exchange. Let's look what take place between the exchange of sovereignty. The Vatican is now sovereign nation. So they say. The crown ruled by divine rights. So they say. The mosques, the synagogues, and the temples hold tax privileges by way of a 501c3. So they say. But when I say, where's your 508? What are you talking about? Claim your life force. If you're in their public dominion, claim your life force through your 508. Drop the 501c3. Claim the swayati through the 508. Binding of a body coming together in your sovereign capacity. Are we going to have that conversation? Corporate persons rule nations. They have a transmitting utility called all caps. You think it's you, but it's not. It's called a transmitting utility. You think that's your social security number, but if you look on the back and say this document belongs to Social Security Administration, and if lost, please return it. It's not yours. You have no number. You didn't come here with a number. Your divine 9 is the illumination of your mind. Your 360 is the essence in this body. You don't have a number. The church can override the state in practice. That's the exchange that took place when you continue to give up your swayati. So your sovereignty is measured by who has the right to bind and to speak for you. And you saying, feed me, I'm going to starve you. You saying, clothe me, I'm going to make you naked. You saying, house me, and you going to be homeless. You saying a right to travel, and I'm going to take your feet off and up under you. So let's look at this exchange for belongings. This wayati is the act of binding the many into a swollen, unified body. You're afraid to say who you are. You're afraid to call your ancestors by their name. You're afraid that tomorrow to say, I am from the household of Marshall, Pierce, L. Simmons. You're afraid to say that. You rather call somebody else. Congregation, the body formed by that binding, recognized under a shepherd or a ruling order. You rather call on a name you don't really know. But the blood that runs through you, say Marshall. The blood that runs through you, say Pierce. The blood that runs through you, say L. Your sovereignty, whoever holds dominion over the bound body controls your will, controls your labor, and the land of his members. So as Martin Luther King say, we are a people exiled in your own land. Let's get into some of these steps, these restoration of your sovereignty, your swayati. Let's get into that. Let's get into step 1. You was pressed into a flock through a combination of spiritual, legal, and social constructs. That almost all done without your conscious agreement. You were not made aware of this. You were not made aware of this at all. So, every system claiming your name as a member, spiritual, legal, and economic, such as church bindings, baptism, christening, confirmation, membership rolls, marriage license under church and state, burial rights, ceremony records, confession as judicial submission. You also have state bindings such as secular church, birth certification registration, census status, social security, and tax ID numbers. Racial clarification, Negro, colored, black, minority, marriage license, voter registration, corporate and economic bindings, employment under corporate personhood, banking and debt contracts, franchise citizen, ward of the state status. All of this created a congregation on paper, a body politic, body ecclesiastical, or corporate body where your sovereignty was harvested. What can you do? Step 2, revoke your jurisdictional consent. To reclaim sovereignty, you must separate the living being, the living spiritual being. I am Tamara Denicia Ariel. Separate the living being from the legal fiction, Tamara Denise, all caps. Even Tamara Denise Williams, Tamara Denise Pierce, created through the Swayati binding. That means revoking consent to membership-based jurisdiction, dissolving assumed ecclesiastical corporate guardianship, correcting your status, and standing on the record. That means you must issue declarations and correct the status via living estate is much greater than a membership to be subject to. So these core actions, you must stop self-identifying as a property or a member of their body. You must reclassify from a subject to a living estate. You must remove yourself from legal fictions, wards, minorities, parishionship, citizenship. You're not a citizen. You're not a sovereign citizen. You're not a sovereign. You're a living spiritual being. You must issue these declarations of non consent to ecclesiastical jurisdiction, non participation in corporation, church, state bodies. Because if that body is not swayating in a 508 of your sovereign capacity, you must come out of her. You must have a correction of your political, racial, and your national status. You must revive your ancestral origin and your national identity. You must exit the corporate corpus. Stop operating through their legal persons. Look up that definition, persons, and their corporational classification. You must do this. You must reestablish your sovereign status. Somebody told me that sovereign shit don't matter. But there's wars going on over that sovereign shit right today. Once you step out of their body, you must stand on your own. This can look really daunting, and it can be daunting because a lot of people has lost their lives. When Martin Luther King and Malcolm X found out, oh, they saw the promised land, that they were standing on it. They said, Dorothy, I'm already home. And then when they saw it and said they would take the best of us and take us out of here, I ain't trying to die for none of us but myself. I'm just a messenger giving you a message. How about that? This can look like a personal sovereignty, unbound living estate. Declare your status as a living woman or man, not a corporate member. Claim your private estate outside U.S. state ward status. Operate in your private capacity, not a franchise person. You have all these tools. You have chat, you have Google, you have this, you have that. Go Google. But like my mother used to say, go Google it. Go look it up. Family bloodline church trust or private domain. Reconstruct your ancestral or matriarchal estate. Establish your private trust, your clan or your house governance. Who rolled this house? Did you shut down your government? The government mean your mind. Did you lose your cotton picking mind on October the 1st? Did you shut down your government? Remove your family from parish, state, and federal congregation. Align with indigenous, inherited, or original pieties. We must realign. We must bind back together. We must swell. We must bring our fusions back together. We must invoke pre-colonial or pre-Christian jurisdiction and stand under the blood, land, and natural law, not canon or corporate jurisdiction. This must take place. This is spiritual. You must restore your own body politic. Claim your nation status, lineage, trust, or your private jurisdiction. So, since Swayati is about binding a people into a controlled body, sovereignty is reclaimed by exiting their body politic, not identifying as parishioners, citizens, corporation, or subject, correcting the legal identity on the record and issuing private declaration and affidavit. Affidavit mean my word is bond. Reclaiming your energetic estate, withdraw spiritual alliance from external authority, revoke baptism, canon claims, declare spiritual autonomy and lineage, reclaiming economic dominion, remove your estate from taxable congressional bodies, operate in private contract instead of public franchise, and stop feeding their corporates with tithes, taxes, interest, and your labor. You will be forever poor, you and your children, children, children. You must stand in your private capacity, move your commerce, your contracts, your identity, and your faith into a private domain. You must worship under your own vine and fig tree. And here's the part that most people just miss. You can't opt out of Swayati. You just decide who the binding authority is. Number one, either you belong to their congregation, state, church, or corporation, or you constitute your own body and stand as its sovereign. It's up to you. This is up to you. The choice is yours. You want to be free or bound? The bigger picture. This is a battle over sovereignty, over your indigenous sovereignty, over the continuation of foreign sovereignty, as well as financial sovereignty. This is a battle for your soul. Are you just going to give it to them? You going to be food for the fodder? Or you going to stand? Coming up, we have Five Prints Friday. We're putting that information together. It'll be coming soon. Stay in tune. We're going to roll the information out when Five Prints Friday will be coming on Fridays at 8 p.m. We're going to get into what we talked about, the unbinding, the restorative practice of recalling back your energy. Thank you for tuning in. Continue to shop with us in our merchandise. I know our sales are low. Come on, people. We got to keep this channel going. Shop with us on our Etsy store. It's just another messenger.etsy.com. And don't forget to tune in every Wednesday. I know today is Friday. I was not feeling well Friday on Wednesday, so I had to come to you to give this to you today. I could not let this day go by without doing so. Tune in every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like I said, we are not monetized on YouTube, but we have our Cash App. Go ahead and hit that Cash App at $ just another messenger so we can keep these truth messages flowing. And if you are someone that like, or you know that would like to be a part of the show, tell them to hit us up with a friendly email at justanothermessengerpodcast@gmail.com, and we can go ahead and get that started. But what I'm going to also put up, this is also a QR code. They have, StreamYard has some really great things coming about. This is our QR code that take you directly to our website page, and it has all those social feeds. So go ahead and get your camera up and hit that for the URL code. And this is our QR code if you want to go ahead and shop with us. Like I said, it's justanothermessenger.etsy.com. I thank you for tuning in, and I hope you retrieve back your Swayati, and I bid you farewell and hit you a happy Halloween and happy Saints Day.
Yo, tuned in, it's that time again. Welcome to the show under the bright zen. Just another messenger bringing the news with the beat in your soul. Let's light up these views. We're diving deep, no time for snooze. Grab your headphones, let me share the clues. In a world so loud, where voices collide, we find the rhythm, let the truth be our guide. Hit that play button, feel the vibe. Every second counts, let's take that ride. From stories untold to laughs we share. Just another messenger, we're always there. Hi. It's a jam, just sit back and unwind. With our flow and our style, it's one of a kind. Life's a mix, just like a DJ spins. We serve you the truth where the journey begins. It's a jam, we're all in this together. Sound waves licking us, no matter the weather. Just another messenger, we keeping it tight. With every single drop, we rise and ignite. Yeah.